It's kind of wild to think about, isn't it? How a single strange night from when you were a kid could end up defining the entire course of your life. Well, today we're diving into a powerful memoir that's all about that. A journey back to one pivotal moment that forged a person's identity right there in the dark.
So, what's driving this whole story? It all comes down to this one powerful feeling. The author tells us right up front that pretty much everything he's ever done has been an attempt to get back to that perfect, safe, wonderful feeling he had as a little kid. This quote, it really sets the stage for everything that's about to unfold. So, where did this idyllic feeling come from? Well, picture this. We're going back to mid-century Brazil, a life of beautiful simplicity. The author paints a picture of a childhood with no TV, no video games, no computers. A world where being alone wasn't lonely. It was just full of potential.
And in a world like that, with so few distractions, his imagination just ran wild. He was constantly daydreaming, and the world around him became this place where everything felt huge and important and packed with secret meaning.
Okay, so this is where we see the first little crack in that perfect world. It's a moment where a kid's imagination slams right into boring adult reality, but in a way that, funny enough, only makes things more mysterious.
Check out this difference in perspective. One day, the boy sees what he's sure is a small, mysterious cave by a stream. To him, it's a magical and sinister place. But when he asks his dad about it, a super practical airplane mechanic, the answer is just, oh, it's just a hole for spiders.
You'd think his dad's boring explanation would kill the magic, right? Nope, just the opposite. It actually lit a fire in him, a lifelong fascination with mystery and danger. Of course, it also left him with a serious dislike of small spaces and, yeah, a major aversion to spiders. A tiny little moment with some pretty big consequences.
So all of this is kind of the backstory, and it's all leading up to one specific night. His parents went out to the movies, which was a huge treat, leaving him at home with his caregiver, Zika, who he absolutely adored. And that night he had a dream that was just deeply unsettling.
So the dream starts, and it's immediately weird. He sees himself walking near the ruins of an old African church, sitting on a hill, overlooking a completely empty beach. You can just feel the heavy atmosphere, right?
Then he goes inside the church, and things get even stranger. All the statues of the saints are there, but they're all hanging upside down from what's left of the roof. It's this total inversion of everything that's supposed to be sacred. And then he looks towards the altar, and sitting there is a statue of Lucifer. But he's not described as scary or threatening. He's stately, almost like Michelangelo's Moses, but with horns and this long snake-like tail. Just then, the whole scene shifts. Suddenly he's outside again, on that hilltop, looking out at the ocean. And way, way out on the horizon, a dark spot starts to swell, forming into this massive, terrifying wave. And here's the thing, this wasn't just a one-off nightmare. It was a dream he had over and over again, and it always ended the same way. He's swimming out into the ocean, straight towards that giant wave, and then he wakes up, right before it hits. The tension is just left hanging there.
But this night is different. The strangeness doesn't stop when he opens his eyes. Because what wakes him up is a real sound, a muffled rhythmic beating of drums coming from right outside in his own backyard.
So he slips out of bed, tiptoes over to his window, and cracks open the wooden shutters just enough to peek out. And in the darkness, he sees them, a small group of people swaying to that hypnotic beat. He even recognizes some of them, women who work for his neighbors, a man he doesn't know, and his caregiver, Zika.
What he was witnessing was a Macumba ritual. He saw the group gathered there, with Shika right in the middle of it. He saw the priestess, an old woman completely in a trance, holding a chicken and a bottle of cachaça. And then, the sacrifice. The priestess swings the now headless chicken, spraying blood everywhere on everyone. And that just kicks off this total frenzy of chanting and wailing from the whole group.
But you know, for this little kid, the most terrifying part wasn't the ritual itself. It was seeing someone he loved and trusted turn into a complete stranger. His dear Sika. She was just as hysterical, just as lost in the frenzy as everybody else. In that one moment, his whole sense of security was just shattered.
So he just quietly closes the shutters and crawls back into bed. But here's the wild part. He wasn't filled with fear. Not anymore. Instead, his mind was just buzzing with all these new emotions and these incredibly deep thoughts about his own future.
Which really makes you wonder, right?
I mean, how on earth does a 5-year-old kid even begin to process a scene that chaotic, that intense? What kind of meaning could he possibly pull from that?
Well, here's what he did. He knelt by his bed and made a promise to himself and to God. He vowed that no matter what life threw at him, no matter what came his way, he would always choose the right path. He would always be good.
5.
Let that sink in. He was only 5 years old. Looking back on it, the author himself finds it just extraordinary that, in that moment, he had such a clear, self-aware, and determined sense of his own destiny and his own moral compass.
So that one night, it just locked everything into place for him. The bizarre dream, the disturbing ritual, seeing his caregiver transformed, it all boiled down to this one simple, powerful idea: a battle between good and evil. And right there, in the darkness of his room, he chose his side, and it set the course for the rest of his life. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What forgotten moments from our own childhoods are still shaping who we are today?